You're listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela.
And Marshall.
Episode number 155.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast this week. How are things going for you, Marshall?
Good. This is kind of a lazy day for me. Just kicking back. Weather's not great. So, I just
At least your house is your house put back together now?
No, not yet. They still haven't. They still have to come and do one more part of the house.
Oh.
So we're waiting for that before I put everything back together. I'm just not even motivated to do it either. So I'm taking things slow and I'm changing things around. You know how that goes.
Ooh,
like I get these bright ideas like, I think I'm going to do this different. So for those of you that don't know out there that are listening, I had my house recarpeted, the whole downstairs and part of the upstairs. And it's been, it's been a thing. And I'm sure that any of you guys that have done remodels, my heart is with you because it is difficult.
It's difficult to stay on track, especially like if you're doing a kitchen remodel, that can be really challenging.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I am prepping for a colonoscopy tomorrow, and I am not a happy camper.
I'm sorry to laugh, but I'd rather be doing what I'm doing than doing what you're doing.
I have to tell you, okay, so listen to this. So I had to spend $40 for a colonoscopy prep kit. And you can only have clear liquids the day before. And they gave me a package of Jell-O. It's this lemon Jell-O. And I looked at it. Each serving has 19 grams of added sugar. And there's 4 servings in the package. So I'm going to be like on a sugar high.
Gosh, right? Jeez.
I mean, this is insane. And I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of what causes colon cancer is this crap diet that we're all eating. And it puts us at very high risk. And so here I am having to give up my vegetables, give up my nuts, give up all this stuff that I really enjoy and that's really good for me. And I'm eating sugar instead. So anyway,
that's bound to make you a little grumpy.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just a day, but we'll get through it. But anyway, for those of you who've ever been through this, I feel you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into today's topic because this is an important topic. And this was a question that we got from one of our new Empowered Weight Loss members. And remember, Empowered Weight Loss is the membership where I'm teaching you all of the skills that you need in order to lose weight and keep it off for good. And when she asked this question, I sent her a note back and I said, you have no idea how deep this question is, and I'm going to do a podcast on it. And also because this is a problem for everyone. So you want to know what her question was?
Yeah, I would love to know. Yes. What is it?
Yes. So she asked, does anyone have any ideas on how to boost consistency in following the Bliss formula and daily exercise?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I know. How do I stay consistent is a great question.
That's something we all want to know.
Yeah. Well, how often do we start something new and we're all gung-ho and we're sort of like transformed by a new perspective, a new idea. Maybe you found a new diet or whatever it might be. And then before we know it, we've abandoned our new knowing and we're back to our old ways. This happens to everybody. So how do we stay consistent in our new habits? This is a huge question. And so I really want to do a deep dive on it. Okay?
Right. This is great.
Yeah. And by the way, if you don't know what she's talking about by the Bliss formula, I'm going to be teaching it in the next Belly Busters Challenge, which we're going to be doing in mid-March. So that's about a month from now. So keep your eye on your email for the announcement that registration is open for the Belly Busters Challenge. It's a 4-day challenge. And if you're not on the email list yet, just go to Sugar and Flour Busters Society in Facebook, and we require an email for you to get into the Facebook group. So then your email will be on our list, and then you'll know when we're holding these challenges. Okay? So let's talk about consistency. Most people value intensity over consistency. So, intensity over consistency. And here's what I mean by that. And by the way, all of this that I'm teaching you comes from the work of James Clear, who wrote an awesome book called Atomic Habits, and who's one of the thought leaders in developing habits. So James Clear talks about this big mistake that most people make when they try to develop new habits. And that is that they focus on intensity over consistency. And this is because they feel that in order to get the results they want, they've got to go all in right away. So they do a 7-day fast, for example, or they decide to try a Whole30 plan, or they try some sort of extreme diet. It's a lot of craziness for a short period of time, but this approach takes way too much willpower and motivation to be sustainable long term. So people end up giving up pretty quickly. Okay, so this is what happens when you value intensity. So what we want to do is to not value intensity. What we want to do is value consistency. So instead, think about developing new habits slowly and purposefully and getting them to be consistent. Then once you have the consistency piece in place, then you can work on intensity. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So here's something that James Clear said in one of his interviews, and I'm going to read it verbatim from the transcript of the interview. In the long run, the quality of our lives depends on the quality of our habits. With the same habits, you'll end up with the same results. With better habits, anything is possible. In many different areas of life, changes seem relatively small and insignificant on a daily basis. So, knowledge, for example, the person who reads for an extra 10 minutes today. Well, reading for 10 minutes today does not make you a genius. But the person who always finds 10 minutes to read each day, over 10 or 20 or 30 years, that could be a pretty meaningful difference in insight and wisdom. The difference between eating a burger and fries for lunch or eating a salad on any given day is pretty insignificant. Your body looks the same in the mirror at the end of the night. The scale hasn't really changed. It's only 2 or 5 or 10 years later that you're like, oh, those daily choices really do add up. It's kind of like you go through your daily routine and then 3 years later, it's like, knock, knock, who's there? Oh, the consequences of my past decisions. It's like, it turns out that stuff creeps up on you. And I think we feel that in so many different ways, in so many different areas of life. And so that pattern of what starts out small and seems relatively insignificant grows and accumulates into something bigger. We see it again and again. And I think we all know this. We've all felt this just from going through life. And it's a double-edged sword. Your habits can either build you up or cut you down. And I think it's a strong reason, a good argument for why you want to understand what they are and how they work and how to design them so that you can be the architect of your habits and not the victim of them. That's a pretty cool way to think of it, don't you think?
Definitely it is.
Yeah. So it turns out that, that was the end of James Clear. Now it's me talking. It turns out that the secret to developing consistency is to start small. Do not rely on willpower or motivation. Willpower and motivation will only work short term. So I like to think about developing new neural pathways in the brain. So let's say you have a neural pathway in your brain that says, go to Starbucks every morning and get a venti mocha. Let's say you've been doing this for the last 5 years, maybe longer. Then you went through the Belly Busters challenge and you realize, oh my God, this is actually a really dangerous habit that could end up killing me because all that sugar is jacking up my insulin levels and creating toxic belly fat, right? I teach you all of this in the Belly Busters challenge. So you're thinking, okay, I got to stop this. But you've got a very strong neural pathway in your brain. It's like a highway that has 5 or 6 lanes and the cars are all going 90 miles an hour. This routine is very well practiced, right?
Right.
And now you want to do something new. So you have to make a choice here. Like, do I want to keep going to Starbucks, but choose something different? Do I want to get a smaller mocha for a while and see if I can just slowly reduce the size and then wean myself off? Do I want to go cold turkey, make my coffee at home, and go through sugar withdrawal? Only you know the answer to that. And I usually encourage people to do a full detox because for many people, sugar is more like cocaine than it is like caffeine or nicotine. So in other words, what I mean by that is you can wean down off of caffeine or nicotine, but cocaine is really hard to wean off of. You pretty much have to go to rehab to get off of it. And sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine in animal studies, right? So you might be someone who actually needs to just do a little sugar rehab at home to get off the morning mochas. Does that make sense?
That's what I had to do.
Yeah. A few times, right? Like all of us end up getting back into it. And then we just have to go through sugar rehab again. So
yeah, I remember I had to quit the coffee and the creamer like for a full week before I even did the sugar detox because I was that addicted to it.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. This was like 4 years ago now.
4 years ago, yeah.
It was right when the pandemic hit. I remember this so well. Okay.
Yeah,
wow. I can't believe that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right. Okay. So you decide you're going to get this mocha habit under control. And then you're going to start this process of building new habits, right? So instead of the morning mocha, you're going to have a good protein breakfast every morning. This is going to be a huge step in keeping you healthy. So slowly and surely, you start building your new habits. Remember what James Clear said, you're going to be the architect of your new habits. Okay. So let's say in the beginning, you make it super easy on yourself and you go to the store and you just get no sugar added Greek yogurt and you add some berries to it and some nuts. Super easy. Not a struggle at all. No cooking involved. And then once you get used to that, you start experimenting with other foods for breakfast. You start looking up different omelet recipes. Do you have any idea how versatile the omelet can be? Like, it's pretty cool. So you're slowly and gradually building this new breakfast habit. You're building new neural pathways in the brain. Our listeners might not know this, but I grew up in Kansas. Of course, I was thrilled when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, but that's beside the point, right? But coming from Kansas, I like to compare building new habits to building a new 90-mile-an-hour freeway in the middle of a wheat field. We have lots of wheat fields in Kansas. So it's going to take some time, right? First, you have to cut down some wheat and make a path. And then you have to widen the path. And then you have to smooth it out and pave it. And then as time goes on, you make lanes in your freeway and you add some on and off ramps and more lanes. Years later, you have a new freeway going 90 miles an hour in the direction of your desired new habit, right? But it takes time and consistency to develop it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay. So there you are. So that's how I want you to think about these new habits that you're working at developing. So you have this 90-mile-an-hour freeway going towards the morning mocha, and you have a tiny little pathway going towards a good protein breakfast. You figured out yogurts, and you're starting to experiment with omelets and frittatas, for example. You're feeling really, really proud of yourself. You're feeling really pleased, and you can feel that you're well on the way to a new, healthier lifestyle. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So then let's say your mother falls and breaks her hip, and she's in the hospital, and she's just had surgery to repair her hip. You've been pretty worried. She made it through fine, but she's in a lot of pain. They're working with her in the hospital, but Medicare won't let people stay in the hospital for very long. I don't know if you know this, and you need to find a place for her to go. And you're working with a social worker. Is it going to be a skilled nursing facility? Are you going to bring her to your house? Are you going to move in with her for a little while? How are you going to get her to physical therapy? How's all of this going to happen? So there's a lot of new stuff happening in your life, and you're having a hard time keeping up with it all and trying to do everything else you always do too. And then you notice, damn it, I'm back into my old habits. I'm back into the mochas. I'm grabbing lunch on the run. Dinner has been Arby's and Taco Bell. I'm not planning and preparing anymore. Okay, how often does this happen? We hear this story all that time.
Yes, we do.
So then you start thinking, okay, geez, I guess I just can't do it. I guess weight loss isn't for me. And then all the brain drama starts and you start beating yourself up. And now you not only have the stress of trying to figure things out for your mother, but you also have the stress of your brain beating you up.
Yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah. So here's what I want all of our listeners to know. Nothing has gone wrong. Okay. There is nothing wrong with you. Your brain is perfectly normal. You are perfectly normal. Because think about what happened. You're working on new habits, and that takes a lot of mental focus. Your new habits are new neural pathways, the equivalent of a path in a wheat field. Then suddenly your brain goes into a fight-flight pattern where your mother falls and there's all of this concern about her and needing to get a lot of extra stuff done along with everything else you already do. It's too much to think about working on these new habits. Your brain is naturally going to do what it knows to do. So back to the 90-mile-an-hour superhighway when you're under stress, right? That's normal and to be expected. Okay. So nothing has gone wrong. All you have to do is once everything is all settled with your mom, you go right back to working on your new habits and developing new brain pathways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why we call it a journey.
Right. Exactly. It is a journey. So I just want you to know it's going to take years of practice in these new habits before they become 90-mile-an-hour pathways like your current ones are. I would say at least 2 years and perhaps more like 3 to 5 years. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yeah. And I know I just wanted to add, I know that this may sound overwhelming, but I promise it gets easier because I have been there and it's overwhelming at first, but it really does get easier. And then it just sort of becomes second nature and you don't have to think about it so much.
Yeah. Well, at this point in my life, like my nutrition habits are 20 years old. And the first 40 years of my life, I ate crap most of the time, but now I've been eating well for 20 years. So even when my mom had a stroke and passed away last year, I didn't go back to eating crap. It never even entered my mind. And that's because my nutrition habits are so well established now that those are the 90-mile-an-hour pathways. It's interesting because I will say I did do a lot more drinking than usual. So whatever, I treated myself kindly and compassionately as I was grieving. And so you just do what you need to do to get through things that happen in life, right?
Right.
So this is the one thing that I want all of us to be aware of. As you're developing new habits and new routines, if life throws a monkey wrench in your plans and you go back to eating crap food for a bit, be kind and gentle with yourself. You've got a normal brain that's currently rejecting the idea of developing anything new because right now you're in fight-flight, trying to manage whatever the stress is. It's okay, all right? Just don't give up. And remember that you want to come back to working on the new habits so that someday they will be just as easy as the old ones were, okay?
All right.
Now, here's another piece of this puzzle. Let's say you're working at developing a new morning routine that will serve you in your weight loss journey. So we have a whole module in the Empowered Weight Loss membership called Weight Loss on Autopilot, where we're working at developing new habits. And one of the habits I always recommend is a good morning routine. So let's say you're working at developing a routine where you meditate, you journal, you exercise, and you eat breakfast. Those are all pieces of a good morning routine. And you've been building this new routine slowly, and you've been working at being consistent with it. And then one morning, you wake up late. And instead of 2 hours before it's time to be at work, you've only got 1 hour to accomplish your routine. What do? Do you just give it all up completely?
No.
What do you think?
No,
you do not. So I would recommend that you just shorten each piece. So if you usually spend 10 to 15 minutes meditating, for example, just meditate for 5 minutes. If you usually exercise for 30 minutes, just exercise for 15. Your goal here is to keep the new brain pathways open. A little bit is better than nothing at keeping open brain pathways. The minute you stop doing something is the minute those pathways start to shrivel up and die. So keep the pathways open by just doing a little bit. You don't want that wheat to start growing back onto your path, right? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one last thing that I want to mention that can really help, and that is accountability. Either accountability in a group or get yourself an accountability buddy. This way, as you're getting started paving your new habit pathways, you can get support, someone to help keep you accountable. So if you have got a buddy, you can help each other out. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just send your buddy a quick note. Morning routine completed. Good protein breakfast, or whatever habit it is that you're working on. And if life throws you a curveball and you went into fight flight, you can let your accountability partner know that too. And they can support you and help you to not beat yourself up. Okay? Research shows very, very clearly that when people have accountability, they're much more successful in their weight loss journey. And remember, we do all of this in the Empowered Weight Loss membership. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes. But what I was thinking was too, is also, if you don't know anybody and you don't really know who to ask, you can also join our Facebook group too and ask, for an accountability buddy. There's people on there that you can just text back and forth. I've seen people do it before. So it's on Sugar and Flour Busters Society on Facebook.
Yeah. That's a great idea. All right, good. Okay, so we've talked a lot today about what you can do if you want to be consistent. I'm so glad that our new Empowered Weight Loss member asked that question. So here's the summary of what we talked about today. First of all, don't try to do it all at once. Start small and build the habit slowly and gradually. So remember to work at consistency and not intensity. Remember that it's never going to be perfect. Expect life to throw you a few curveballs and don't ever give up. If you don't have time to do something all the way, just do a little bit to keep the new pathways open and see if you can find an accountability partner or join a group like Empowered Weight Loss where we're all working on this together. Remember, this is your life. What you're doing is very, very important. Your health is everything. This work that you're doing is really not optional. You're working at getting a disease under control, and you can never give up, no matter what happens. You deserve to live a long, happy, healthy life. You deserve to be thriving in a healthy, vibrant body that you're proud of.
Yeah, a lot of great information here.
Yeah. All right. So that's what we have for you this week. Remember, we're always here to support you in our free Facebook group that Marshall mentioned. It's called Sugar and Flour Busters Society. And when you're ready for more in-depth help, join us in our empowered weight loss community. Just go to journeybeyondweightloss.com/yes to sign up, and we'll see you on the inside. That's all for this week. Take care and have a great week.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.